Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Age Better, where each week we take a deep dive into all the ways we can feel better, look better, live better, and age better. I'm your host, Barbara Hannah Grufferman. This is the final episode of our 4-part series celebrating Women's Health Month, where we've been focusing on the health of midlife women. This week, I'm joined by Heidi Skolnik, a sports nutritionist at the Women's Sports Medicine Center at the Hospital for Special Surgery. Heidi's been on the show a few times, including to talk about her New York Times bestselling book, The Whole Body Reset. It's always fun to have Heidi on the show, so I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Throughout this series, we've heard from various medical experts about the smart choices we can all make that support and even improve our health during midlife and beyond. If you missed the first 3 episodes, which focused on building back bone density, getting smarter about your heart, and why you need to control hot flashes to age better, definitely take a listen after you listen to this episode. And remember, you can also watch all Age Better episodes on my YouTube channel. One topic that keeps popping up is the use of specific supplements. It can get really, really confusing, especially when you hear a lot of conflicting views about them, right? And there's so much about supplements on social media lately. In fact, I was inspired to do this episode after I saw a very popular and very well-known menopause expert downing a bunch of supplements with a drink concoction that she makes every day with different powder supplements. And I thought, that seems a little excessive, but maybe it isn't. I mean, what do I know? So I thought this needs some sussing out. So to give you and me clear, expert-driven advice on this subject, I've compiled a list of those supplements that are mentioned the most frequently to discuss with Heidi. In this episode, we'll go through each one, asking Heidi to give her expert yay or nay on their effectiveness and necessity, which ones you should definitely consider, and which ones you can save some money on by just not even thinking about buying them. So pop in your earbuds, grab some water, and take me with you for a nice walk while you get the inside scoop on supplements. Stay tuned.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds, and I'm here with Keith, co-star of my upcoming film, If, only in theaters May 17th. Do you want to tell people the big news? All right, I'll do it. Sign up now and you'll get unlimited for $15 a month and 6 months of Paramount Plus Essential Plan on us. MintMobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 equivalent to $15 per month. Unlimited over 40 gigabytes per month. Face lower speeds. Videos at 480p. Active Mint customers by 531.24 get 6 months of Paramount Plus Essential Plan. Auto renews after 6 months. Offer ends May 31st, 2024. Separate Paramount Plus registration required. Terms and conditions apply if rated PG.
Your brain needs support, and new Ollie Brainy Chews are a delightful way to take care of your cognitive health. Made with scientifically backed ingredients like Thai ginger, L-theanine, and caffeine, Brainy Chews support healthy brain function and help you find your focus, stay chill, or get energized. Be kind to your mind and get these nootropic chews at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hello, everyone. Joining me today is Heidi Skolnik. She is my go-to on everything nutrition. And Heidi has been on the show a few times. Also, when she was on with her co-author of The Whole Body Reset, Steve Perrine. So welcome back to Age Better, Heidi.
It's great to be here. And it's wonderful to have watched this just blossom.
Oh, thank you. And I love doing it. I do learn something from every single one of my guests every week. And it's been a real pleasure for me. And thank you. And it is growing in leaps and bounds. And everyone, you can also watch it on YouTube if you are not already doing so. So this week's topic, Heidi, is really interesting to me. We're confused about this. There's a lot of stuff out there on social media. You see Instagram Reels and on TikTok and the like. Medical experts talking about the different supplements that they take every single day. A few of those medical experts are women in midlife who are menopause experts. So that's of specific interest to my audience. And so we're all a bit confused. So I thought, hey, let's get Heidi back on the show to talk about a few of those supplements that seem to really be talked about the most by these medical experts and that seem to really be of the most interest to my audience. So let's get going. First one, let's start with the one that I truly believe in and that I take religiously every single day. Vitamin D3 mixed with K2. Heidi?
Okay, so first though, I just want to set the stage. And that is the idea that a supplement is that. When you need it, you should take it. But supplements supplement a diet, right? And no, we don't need to eat perfectly to eat healthfully. No, I'm not one of those, I'm a sports dietitian really at heart. That's what I do. And that's just not my message ever. But it is true that supplements are not going to make up for a really poor diet. This is all to support whatever you're doing dietarily and then to fill in gaps, or if there's a therapeutic need, or if there is, like, we'll talk about vitamin D, like really probably nobody gets enough vitamin D from the sun and through their diet. So I just want to put that out there, right? That, like, again, it still starts with your dietary patterns and your dietary choices. And now we're deciding which and what else you might need based on your stage of life and your patterns and preferences of your diet.
Right. And supplements, I mean, let's look at the word. It's to supplement. And you're right. It's to supplement what you're eating. And of course, some of us, it's also personal because some of us may not be adequately absorbing certain nutrients the way others might for whatever reason. And probably the best way to find out how you're doing in that area is to get your blood work done every year, right? And have certain things checked, like your vitamin D level and your magnesium levels and your B levels and so on and so forth. So let's go back to my favorite one, vitamin D3 mixed with K2. What do you think?
I don't want to spend too much time on vitamin D because I think that's pretty well established in people.
Agree.
All right. So yes, we do need vitamin D, but it is true, and you are right on, that K2, which is kind of new, I think, to many people, the current evidence does support that for that vitamin D and K might be more effective than either one of them alone for bone health and even perhaps cardiovascular health. So right on to you. So vitamin K is part of a collection of vitamins, really. And there's actually 10 subtypes. And this is where it gets really confusing. And you don't need to know all of that, right? It's just that there are different ones, and I think we could get sidetracked. But they're fat-soluble vitamins, so it is good to take it with a food that has fat. So if you're taking it in the morning when you have avocado or or a nut butter or or another meal when you're having olive oil, you want to take it with a some fat, because it is a fat-soluble vitamin, as is D3.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then vitamin K2 is absorbed a little bit more slowly. It does help vitamin D and calcium do the work it needs to do. It activates a protein called osteocalcin, which binds calcium to bones. Because I know you're specifically as it relates to bone health. And so some studies do show that it may reduce fractures, improve bone quality in people with osteoporosis.
Yeah. I mean, as we know, it is usually attached to bone health when talking about vitamin D, and especially mixed with the K. But as we know from other studies, vitamin D can really help in a lot of other areas as well.
And we're not going to go to all the areas that all of these different vitamins can do, because it would be 5 shows.
Yeah.
But the point is that I do think it is good to take a vitamin that has both D3 and vitamin K2. It is fermented foods, right? So it is found in blue cheese and Gouda and egg yolks. But again, how much of that are you going to really eat? But I do also want to say that in terms of interactions, like if you're taking Coumadin or other blood thinners, you might want to consult with your doctor. That's true.
Right.
Vitamin K, and be sort of consistent with your intake.
Right. So let's move on to one that I find quite fascinating. And it's one that has really kind of risen to the top of interest in supplements lately, especially as it relates to sleep and getting better sleep. And that's magnesium. And magnesium comes, as I've studied, in many different forms. And it's confusing. I mean, whether A, to take magnesium or not, and
Right.
B, if you decide, yes, I want to take magnesium, what form of magnesium? Heidi?
Yeah. So magnesium plays a role in muscle contraction, right? That's one reason why it plays from a food perspective a major role in the DASH diet, dietary advances to stop hypertension. And we talk about having adequate fruits and vegetables and dark leafy greens. And, it's found in pumpkin seeds and chia seeds and almonds and cashews and greens like spinach and grains and all of that. So it's great, again, dietarily. Diseases of the digestive tract, which is true for all, as you mentioned, probably for all of these. Like if you have Crohn's disease or celiac or colitis, it can deplete magnesium. If alcohol abuse, diabetes, proton pump inhibitors, like if you're taking for more than a year, which can reduce our stomach acid. And so that could also deplete our magnesium, like Prilosec or Nexium. So those are people who are a little bit more prone. It is interesting because magnesium is abundant in our food supply, yet it is also true that maybe 25% of people or more don't seem to get enough. Adolescents and people over 71 are more likely to be low on intake. But most people don't have a deficiency. The science is really unclear. Magnesium deficiency is not associated with an increased risk of insomnia.
Interesting.
But there is some support. And this is where even as a practitioner, it's tough to sort through all of the research because sometimes, is it a well-designed study? What are the other contributing factors? But it does look like magnesium may help with falling asleep because we know when we talk about sleep challenges, there are those people who have trouble falling asleep, then there are those people who have trouble staying asleep. Like there's different elements to sleep. So it may help you fall asleep. However, it didn't really affect total sleep time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's sort of interesting. And what I find really interesting, I'm learning more and more about is sleep apnea,
Mm-hmm.
especially postmenopausal sleep apnea. It's much higher and it doesn't track the same way we would think because most people who are postmenopausal don't have the same symptomology. But sleep apnea may contribute to lower levels of magnesium. And it's not that if you have lower levels, you get sleep apnea, but it may be sort of the inflammation that comes with sleep apnea and sleep deprivation depletes your magnesium. So again, these are tricky things to tease out, but I'm not so sure magnesium is the answer to your sleep issues. And, sleep doctor, try to unpeel that onion.
But beyond sleep, what else can magnesium do? I mean, the medical experts that I referenced, no names, please, at the beginning, they talk about magnesium as almost a cure-all for a lot of different things, for helping with bone. Lots of different areas of your body are being helped apparently by an increase in intake of magnesium.
Yeah. And again, I don't know that that's wrong. It's the scare tactics and all of these nutrients do a lot of different things in our body. And as you said, what is it that you need and going for? So it does help with bone health. Magnesium is an important, along with calcium and vitamin D. And case, it does help with our bone health. And I think it's fine to supplement with, with all of these, you take a 1-a-day multivitamin because you're going to get it in there.
Right.
We're really talking about 200 milligrams is safe and sufficient. If you don't have a known deficiency, you don't really need more. If you have a known deficiency, then you might go up a little higher. The upper tolerable limit is from supplements is about, I think, 350 milligrams. And that's a lot of numbers to throw around. And but the idea is it's not like even if some is good and I might need a little more is better.
Yes, no.
It has a positive effect. It could have a negative effect when taken too much. So in terms of the types, I would say that magnesium chloride, citrate, and some chelated forms are better absorbed. Magnesium oxide, less expensive, but not as well absorbed, and it could cause stomach upset, diarrhea, which is one of the reasons it can be used as a laxative for
Right.
people who are struggling with constipation. course, almost always I'd like to back that up and kind of look at why you're having trouble with constipation. Do you need that as a laxative, or do you need more fiber? Like, what else is going on? Or not eating enough food? Is that why you're constipated? So I just think, like, again, with all of these, it's good to have a solution or to know there's a supplement that may help, but also let's look at what's going on. Okay, so, and again, interactions, it can interact with statins for cholesterol lowering. If you're taking a statin, antibiotics, gabapentin. So there are a list of and some other medications that, again, when you start taking any of these vitamins or minerals separately or in a higher dose, you may want to consider, if you're on other medications, just to see how they may interact.
I always like to suggest to people also that they check with their doctor.
Yeah.
And or their pharmacist. Very often pharmacists know, really know about the interactions, sometimes even better than doctors themselves. But thank you for bringing that up for sure. So let's move on to another one that pops up quite often in the lists of these medical influencers, creatine. Now that normally, tell me if I'm right or wrong about this, Heidi. Normally in the past, I've seen creatine come up more often in like sports nutrition and, sports related reviews of supplements and nutrients. But it's coming up now among the general population. So talk to us about that.
So you're absolutely right. It's really a supplement that's been around for a very long time and studied extensively within the athletic world. It is a naturally occurring, in our food supply. Creatine is found in red meat and fish, herrings, salmon, tuna. And we make about 1 gram of it a day from our liver, our pancreas, and our kidney. Vegans and vegetarians might not have as much. We store it in our muscles and some in our brain. It's an energy source. It's typically taken from a powder and you can mix it in, and it allows athletes to sort of do more work, to whether it's reps or sprints or greater gains in strength, muscle mass, all of that. So in high intensity, intermittent activities, rapid recovery, all of that. Then it was looked, does it help in other areas? Would it help in muscle wasting conditions? Would it help with sarcopenia and bone health? Would it help with cognition and brain health? Would it help in Parkinson's or ALS? Like, there's other applications. So I would say that I don't know that it will or won't yet. I don't know that enough studies have been done to say that it will improve cognitive health in older adults, or whether it really will. It might, again, it's one of those, it might help counteract age-related declines in skeletal and muscle and bone mineral density. It's not going to hurt you. But all of these things cost money. So you also have to balance against people with, are you going to eat food insecurity, or going to eat? Are you a red meat eater? Do you get a lot in your diet? Are you a vegan and you don't? Those are things to sort of consider.
Yeah.
Because there's a finite amount of money and how much pills or products that people want to take. But I do think it's interesting. You can look for NSF, which is certified for sport. It's something that athletes look for to make sure that what their product is doesn't have anything else in it. Because this is one where other things could, if it's not from a reputable brand. So look for a reputable brand and for that NSF certified.
Oh, that's really great input, Heidi, on what to look for. And I think that I may try it also, only because you know how plugged into bone health I am, and muscle loss really very often goes hand in hand with bone loss. And so as you get older, making sure that you keep your muscles strong and your bones dense is really so super important. And we've already talked about a few supplements that will help us to do that.
I'm going to actually read this. And this is from a 2020 study. And this was a systematic review of randomized controlled trials. And a randomized controlled trial is a good way for a study to be constructed.
Yes.
So 17 studies were comprehensively reviewed according to categories of strength, endurance, functional capacity, body composition, cognition, and safety. These studies suggest that any additive ergogenic creatine effects on upper or lower body strength, meaning a positive effect, functional capacity, and lean mass in an older population would require continuous and daily low-dose creatine supplementation combined with at least 12 weeks of resistance training. Potential creatine-specific increases in regional bone mineral density of the femur are possible, but may require at least 1 year of supplementation combined with moderate resistance training, and additional long-term clinical trials are warranted. The limited data suggested no additive effects of creatine over exercise alone on indices of mental health. The beneficial effects of creatine supplementation are more consistent in older women than men. So there's a lot to unpack there.
Yes.
But again, not that surprising because women, a generalization, but probably don't eat as much red meat or might not eat as much protein or get just enough in. They may not be starting in the same place, so their gains are greater. I don't know that from this study. Interesting that that idea that consistency matters. Most important thing is the resistance training more than the creatine for sure, and giving it time. And as we get older, one of the things is that it just takes longer to see the gains or the consequences of our efforts. The benefit.
Yeah, that's true of everything now, Heidi. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, listen, everyone, this is Women's Health Month, and this is part 4 in a 4-part episode that we did. Yeah, Heidi, you're number 4. Save the best for last, right? But number 1, part 1 of this 4-part series focused on exactly that, on strength training, resistance training, and really progressive weight with a wonderful person that we both really love and adore and know well, Rebecca Rothstein, founder of Buff Bones. So everyone, if you didn't yet watch or listen to that episode, I really encourage you to do that because I think it goes really nicely hand in hand with this episode. So take a look at that. So creatine, anything else on creatine?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. So let's move on to the B vitamins. There are a few of them. So what do you say? I see the B vitamins out there a lot for like brain health and like other functions, heart health. And what do you say? Are we getting enough of it from food or a multivitamin or what?
Yeah, I mean, B6, I think it's really pretty abundant in food. It's a water-soluble vitamin. It's abundant in food. Deficiency is rare. So, I mean, yeah, it does a ton in our body. There's literally 100 enzyme reactions. It's included in protein, fats, carbs, metabolism, and cognitive development, and neurotransmitters, and all of these different things. For sure, it plays a role in. It's found in chickpeas, again, in fish, breakfast cereals, and fortified foods. Flour has it, potatoes. I mean, it's pretty much out there. Interesting, it may help with PMS, a different stage of life than we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem to help with cognition. I could be missing something, and someone I'm sure has an opinion out there. They can tell me otherwise, but I don't get it. I don't get the B6 need. B12 is different because as we get older, we do lose what's called the intrinsic factor, which helps us. I mean, I don't want to go through the whole digestive process, but first of all, B6 is found in animal protein. So it's meat and fish and poultry and dairy, very abundant and easily available, more easily absorbed through dairy. But that's why vegans at any age need to supplement with B12 because they're not going to get it. They don't have any animal.
Right. Okay.
A little bit in maybe yeast. But anyway, and we begin to actually digest it in our saliva when we begin to chew food. It starts there and has to be like sort of broken and separated from, and we absorb it ultimately when it connects with this intrinsic factor in our stomachs. So supplements are actually absorbed very well because it doesn't have to go through that. And again, as we get older, there's a percentage of us that have less of this. So again, I think it's found in multivitamins. It's found more if you take a complex, and then if you're taking a singular vitamin, you can even find it in higher. But again, it's not like more is better. You need enough. Same thing, medication interactions, metformin actually, and there are a lot of people on metformin, that could reduce absorption. So you might really need it. Prilosec, Tagamet, Zantac, all of those. So it's a yes for B12.
So a not really for B6 and a yes for
Right.
B12. But let me ask you something. Isn't B12, your levels of B12 can be sussed out through your annual physical through your blood work. Yes or no?
Yeah, and there's pernicious anemia. Can take a long time to see a deficiency.
Got it.
And that's why I'm back to that multivitamin. Not that a multivitamin is preventing, because there's a lot of these studies that go, multivitamins don't prevent cancer, don't prevent heart disease. Well, there's a lot of other things that we care about and things that don't end up in death, but are like these subclinical issues that we're walking around with or supporting other actions in our body.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of the multivitamin. You'll hear me continuing to say that.
But getting back to a creatine for 1 second, creatine is not a supplement that's normally in a multivitamin.
Not and couldn't be. Same thing with
just couldn't be, because as you said, it has to be a standalone. So really, so far, what we've
It's not that it has to be a standalone. I'm just saying, don't waste your money when you buy creatine on getting anything that has all these other things in it, because you don't need all of those other things to have creatine.
Got it. Okay. But right now, everyone, so what we're talking about, the vitamin D and K and magnesium and the Bs, they're in a multivitamin so far. So, okay, now we're going to get on to, there's more. There's more about the Bs.
We're not going over calcium today. And we don't need to either. I think it was not good that it's not included. But calcium, you can't get enough in a multivitamin because, again, it just wouldn't. So you do need a separate, depending on how much calcium you need, you're probably going to need to take a separate calcium. And that calcium could have your vitamin D and your K, and may even have your magnesium. There are all these different options out there, which I know is confusing. You just want to know what you're taking and what it has. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to replicate it. But because you can't fit a normal one a day isn't going to be able to fit the calcium you need in it.
Got it. But again, we, like the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation, always recommends food first for calcium and then supplement if you really need it, of course. So, okay. So anything more about the Bs?
No,
before we move on to our next, which is collagen. Yeah. Now, collagen, there's a lot of powders out there, and you see a lot of celebrities touting their daily intake of collagen powder in their smoothies for skin, better skin and better nails and better hair.
Yeah.
And other bodily functions, of course. So tell us, collagen, yay or nay?
Yeah, this is a harder one for me because I've been trying to read up more and more on it. And again, it's one of those, like, I respect this researcher and what they're saying, but then this researcher makes it really clear. So, and I've been reading, the literature, it's a little all over the place. And here's why. So first of all, let's explain. So collagen is one of the most abundant sort of proteins in our body. It's a main building block of connective tissue, as you were saying, for our skin, our bone, our cartilage, our tendons, our muscles, even blood vessels has some. It has many amino acids, but it's not a complete amino acid. It has glycine and proline and hydroxyproline, which the body uses to then, it breaks it down and rebuilds. Based on 15 days of collagen peptides compared to a placebo for 3 months showed no improvement in lean mass or muscle strength. But in that sense, what was the placebo? If the placebo didn't have 15 grams of protein, then you're not even comparing the same to the same. Mm-hmm. I mean, all that. I know it's a little roundabout and confusing, but
so it sounds like you're nay on this, not yay.
I am, but for skin, there does seem to be some evidence that it supports it. There does seem to be some research that says it may help to reduce wrinkles by increasing skin volume, elasticity, and/or hydration, 7 to 20%.
That's really interesting. And again, I want to really be clear here. There are collagen products on the market that are topical, meaning collagen skincare. From everything I've seen, steer clear of those. Don't waste your money. They don't really do anything more than moisturize your skin, which is, Vaseline can do that too.
I'm not a dermatologist. It's not my area.
Yeah, but I actually discussed this with a dermatologist. However, by ingesting the collagen, as we're talking about right now, that does seem to work. And I've seen quite a few anecdotal comments from people, from women who have been on a steady intake of collagen powder, and it does seem to work with their nails and their hair and their skin.
But are they eating adequate protein, I wonder?
Yeah.
Like, it's better than, right? Are they focused now on it? And again, in the sports nutrition literature, the idea is you would take it like an hour before performance with about 50 milligrams of vitamin C to help with muscle soreness, to help with repair, to help with all these different things. So I don't know.
I don't know. So, but the question I have for you, Heidi,
It comes from cows, it comes from pigs, it comes from chicken, maybe fish, chicken, egg, cows. That's what the supplements are coming from. So if, just know that if you're vegan, you may not realize what you're taking in that supplement form.
yeah, be careful, like read the labels to make sure that you're getting the right supplement. So if you are taking something like a whey protein powder, having a smoothie, so really, and you're thinking about collagen powder also, it sounds as though you may not need that if you're taking one, you don't need the other.
But again, you might get readers or listeners who know more than I in this area, because I do find this one confusing and a little all over the place. It doesn't make sense, but some things don't always have to make sense to actually still work. I may be missing something, like the fact that it has these extra more of these amino acids that are used more provisionally for this purpose. Again, the good news about all the things that we've covered is that it's hard to say, but I don't think it'll hurt.
Right.
And again, there's a difference. Are you talking about for tendons? Are you talking about for protein? Are you talking about for bone health? There's some support that maybe it'll help. So if you already have, if you don't have osteopenia, osteoporosis, I don't know that you need to do it. But maybe if you have osteopenia or osteoporosis, for sure, maybe it's what's the downside?
What's the downside? Well, the only downside is money. Exactly.
It's a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah. They're not inexpensive. No. They're not.
It's money, it's time, it's effort, it's how many supplements are you taking and all of that.
Right. So the jury is out. So you're not yay or nay, you're maybe meh.
That was a meh. It's a meh, which I know is so unhelpful. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay. Here's one I find fascinating because I am obsessed. I get obsessed with things, especially when I have a guest on the show who totally dives deep and goes into the weeds about something. So not long ago, I had somebody on talking about the gut microbiome, and that's like a really big obsession of mine now. And there's so much new research. So now we're going to talk about probiotics, because we do want a gut that is like a jungle. I'm paraphrasing my expert who was on the show. You want a gut that is like a jungle. It's really varied, lots of stuff going on. And as we get older, as it turns out, everything starts to kind of become like the same. And you don't want that. You do not want that. So apparently probiotics can help with that. So Heidi, help us out. Do we need that?
I think this is complicated, and it depends why, who, what has your gut. And it's true, everything you said. So let's just be clear that probiotics are, when we're introducing something into our system, it's a fermented or it's a live bacteria that we're introducing into our microbiome, which is filled with bacteria.
Yes.
That confers a healthy benefit. So there's probiotics, there's prebiotics, which feed the probiotic, right? So it's not the same thing, but you need these prebiotics to feed the probiotics so that they stay healthy. Symbiotics is when you have a combination of both. And there's even now, and don't ask me to go into it because it's that new, maybe there's some postbiotics that we're going to learn more about. So we are learning so much. And it keeps
of course, there has to be a postbiotics. Okay, sorry.
So I think that these probiotics, which is way more than, again, most of us want to get into, but why it's so confusing, they're identified by their strain, their genus, their species, their subspecies, their alphanumeric strain designation. There's all, and there's 7 core ones, and then there's all these different things. So you can find it in yogurt, right? It's in yogurt, it's in kefir. We've heard all this kombucha, sauerkraut, if it's really fermented, not the kind that's in vinegar, miso, kimchi, different cultures sort of have found their way.
Yes.
But I think that we used to think it was all about probiotics, and then we found out we understand more about prebiotics. And prebiotics are found in soluble fiber, like apples and beans and peas and bananas and berries and flax seeds and garlic and tomatoes and soybeans. I mean, the list, carrots, not far out foods that you really can eat. So I think this idea that you just take a probiotic and you're covered, when there's all these different strains and all these different foods and all, is And in fact, maybe we overpopulate then with one strain, right? By taking one probiotic as opposed to eating this range and having them be built up in your systems. Just like you're saying, it's not just about the volume that we eat, it's about the variety. So it's not about more and more and more. It's like, do you eat the same 5 foods every day, or do you eat a variety of foods every day? That variety is what's really helpful to feeding our microbiome and keeping it healthy.
A colorful plate.
A colorful plate. Yeah.
So what's your verdict of probiotic?
Again, I think there are times, I'm going to go back to athletes, if we know that they're traveling and they might get traveler's diarrhea, that we might proactively give them a particular strain of a probiotic. Or if we're fearful of like upper respiratory tract infection, they might get a different probiotic. But I am not a fan of external. Now, again, it's not my expertise in terms of gut health. Like somebody's not coming to me for their gut health to repair their gut health, in which case they might do well with a probiotic for a while and then get off that and get, once it's healed, and then go back to whole foods to maintain. I'm not saying there aren't times when it's indicated. I am not a fan of using it as the source and the way to keep my gut health healthy.
Okay. So it sounds like it's a nay, nayish, maybe a may, a meh. No, not nay, meh.
It's a provisional one because I'm not.
Yes, because don't forget, if you take antibiotics for some infection, they're going to give you that to help you get through that period of time.
I think that there's an indication for it. And I think you should get the direction you need when you need it for what you need it. And then I think you should take it. But I don't say blanketly, everyone should take it.
Right. Every day. Got it. So any that that's the end of my list, by the way. Any that we haven't covered, do you think you want to throw into the mix? I mean, you did mention calcium, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to throw in there, or?
I mean, there's so many. And
so many.
People still have so many questions.
I have to just tell you something, Heidi, and everyone. I mean, I really do like to research. I mean, that's what I do. And I do listen to a lot of podcasts, and I like to read the research, as do you. And I do find myself sometimes listening to these people who I call the bro biohackers, like Andrew Huberman. He has the Huberman Lab, or Peter Attia, doctor. And they come from a very highly regarded place. And they are highly regarded medical experts, but they are really pushing these supplements even much more than what we're talking about today. Truly much more. And it just drives me crazy, because I do believe in, like everything you were just saying, that most of this we can get from having a healthy diet, something that we encourage you to do anyway. And then some of these that, you should supplement, like vitamin D. There are a few, maybe creatine. There are a few here that you might want to consider, especially if your blood work indicates that you're deficient in something. Right, Heidi?
Yeah, look, I think as much as I'd like to normalize and bring everyone's anxiety level down when it comes to food and nutrition, there is a wide array of how people eat. And, some people they overeat or yet they're undernourished. Others are so micromanaging, they can't enjoy their food because they're so focused on perfection. We have our genetics. Some people exercise, some people don't. And there's a big connection in terms of the, effects that exercise has on every single system in our body. It's all a personal choice. And then figuring out your financials, your food security, insecurity. So I just don't like to fuel that fire. But there are people who know a lot more than me. And there are people who interpret the research differently than I do, or who just come from a different place. And it's okay. But I do think it's also important to temper, like who you want to listen to, what inspires you, what overwhelms you. You can take parts of it, not all of it.
And you also, I think, have to really pay attention to who the messenger is. For example, the two men I just mentioned, the two experts I referenced, they probably spend easily 2 hours a day exercising. And we're talking about hardcore exercising. And so they need to feed their bodies differently than, say, a midlife woman who takes a 30-minute walk once or twice a day and maybe does some strength training. So we have to just really take a look at who the information is coming from as well. Hey, Heidi, this was great. And I always have more to ask you about for sure. But do you have like 3 takeaways you want to make sure that the audience remembers?
Look, accessible to everyone. When you're looking for, like, there is the National Institute of Health fact sheets that you could just Google that will take you through each vitamin. And it talks about who and drug interactions, medication interactions, who is at greater risk, what's the latest research. They summarize it for you. They tell you how much, whether it is indicated, isn't indicated. I think that they're a good, easy, free resource if you have questions that you can go look at. There is a thing called examine.com. I haven't really used that one much, but I think it does try to look at sort of as a consumer advocacy group. Consumer Labs, but that's a paid subscription. And that is an organization that does review supplements, explains what the research is, and actually looks at the supplements and rates them in terms of whether what they say is in it, or whether does it absorb or not absorb and things like that. So that might be a good resource for some of your listeners who are confused and just want to explore on their own.
Yeah, that's great. I think everybody just has to keep an open mind and really personalize medicine and personalize. I think supplement taking is really something that I think is a mantra that we all have to have. What works for Heidi may not work for you. What works for me may not work for you. So really look at yourself and talk with your doctor and talk with your pharmacist too about interactions and the like. And then I'll put into the show notes some of those references that you mentioned, Heidi, so people can check out the supplements and other supplements that they might be interested in knowing more about. So thank you again. Always a pleasure. I know you'll be back.
I hope so.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Age Better Podcast, please do a few things. First, share it with all your friends and family. Then subscribe to Age Better wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Finally, if you have ideas for topics you want me to cover in a future episode of Age Better, send an email to agebetterpodcast@gmail.com or reach out to me on social media. Until next time, remember this. We can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.